Do you guys remember this? How could you not, right? It's about Italy. It's the scandal that's currently boiling over in Italy. And it's that image from the ballroom where there's the referee in charge. It's supposed to be just them who should notify the one on the field and tell him things and so on. In that VAR protocol, only those who are there are supposed to intervene. And what about the referee on the field then? It turns out they turned to a guy who was tapping on the glass from an adjoining room, and he was telling them, no, you have to look at that more closely because that's actually different, right? And how the guy was watching and all that, well, and how he nodded, and then the decision would change and he would tell the referee, hey, no, actually it's going this way. Well, of course, that's it. Everyone was shocked there. The prosecutor's office was investigating and so on. Although this has been going on for a while, it goes back some time. I don't know if a year or so. But from that moment on, when some suspicions started to arise, they began to listen to phone calls. Of course, in Italy, they are more than wary of this logically because they had the Calciopoli scandal in 2006, which was sanctioned immediately. And now, well, they acted quickly, but Calciopoli was also dealt with quickly. I mean, in the first instance, it's not that they've learned now, which could be the second time around. No, both in 2006 and now they're doing it. Interesting. 20 years, does 20 years ring a bell? Now let's talk about Spain. Well, they're acting the way they should. Pay attention to the parallels with Negrerismo when they were paying Negrera and the post-Negrerismo when we don't know who they're paying now, right? We'll find out in a while because it's unbelievable. But first, now let's get to this. I have to tell you, you probably already know Mbappe's medical report. After the test carried out today on our player Kylian Mbappé by Real Madrid's medical staff, he has been diagnosed. This is a copy paste. Isn't it wonderful? They just state the injury and that's it. Always the same for all the injured footballers since there are so many. There must be just one guy at Madrid hired only to do copy paste there. He has been diagnosed. Diagnosed with an injury in the thigh muscle. Sorry, the semitendinosus muscle of the left leg pending evolution. Well, we already knew this. We knew he had an injury, but the timeline was what was a bit unclear for us. Madrid doesn't mention a timeline, but he'll miss the Espanyol match. You know that right after the medical report is released, the timeline starts to leak out, and Real Madrid hopes he'll be ready for El Clásico. Oh, how exciting that is. El Clásico, how exciting. Will Barça be champions that day? Will they have been champions before that? Oh my. I mean, we're going to put the finishing touch on two terrible seasons that day. It's enough to make you want to jump out the window. But hey, that's where we are. We often say Barca fans don't grasp reality, especially with the Negrera issue and other things. They really distance themselves from reality, right? To avoid being like them, we must recognize our own reality, which is different since we don't cheat, right? Not like them, who have been documented to pay a referee chief, but in sports terms, well, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble. Anyway, well, that's one thing. And on the other hand, Militão is going to have surgery in Finland, apparently by one of the best specialists. Could the surgery have been avoided with a conservative treatment, as Miguelito Lacanaco said yesterday? By the way, he was the first to mention this about Militão, to see if he could recover. But the success rate wasn't going to be very high. There was that risk that the success rate wouldn't be very high. And maybe he could be recovered in a month and a bit, and maybe he could make it to the World Cup, but not at 100%. So the decision has been made, which of course the player was involved in, that he should just have surgery and be out for 5 months, man. 5 months out. It's unbelievable. You can't count on him for anything. Not this season, not the start of next season. Militao's situation is unbelievable. We discussed it recently. How could they ruin the career of a 28-year-old, the best center back? Besides, there are people saying that in this turbulent season, he's been one of the players who's shown the most leadership in the locker room and all that. Well, there you have it, man. He comes back, gives you 3 days, and then gets injured again. Again, right? Because he's still dealing with everything that was done wrong. Maybe it's the player's fault, maybe it's just bad luck. But I think for the most part, I don't think it's either of those, although they could play a part. But mostly it's because of Real Madrid's medical staff. I already shared my thoughts on this in a longer video the other day and won't add more now. because this should be about what it's supposed to be about, which is the topic I just mentioned to you, the parallel between Italy and Spain regarding refereeing. But before that, also about this, because there's been a lot of talk about Scaloni, as Manolo Lama said yesterday. He said, me, Scaloni, come on, kid, faint once, faint twice. I'm sure someone from Real Madrid already talked to Scaloni. Manolo Lama said that on the talk show, right? And of course, today everyone is talking about Scaloni and all that. Look, for me, I'm going to solve this very easily because I think that coaches who are with national teams now, who have a job now, well, are you going to take Mourinho out of there, who has a job at Benfica? I don't rule it out, but well, I think we have to distinguish between the coaches who don't have a job right now, and there's the main favorite, Jurgen Klopp, and those who do have a job now. And among those who have a job now, there are those who are with their national teams at the World Cup, and those who are with clubs whose work will end in a few days when all the seasons finish in mid-May, late May. The thing about the national team coaches, I mean, Pochettino and Scaloni or Nagelsmann, what do you want me to say? I mean, these guys have work until most likely, not to mention Scaloni or Nagelsmann, mid-July or early July. And even Pochettino, right? Because I think the first phase of the World Cup will end around then, at the end of June or the beginning of July. Madrid has to start planning for next season right now. I mean, by June 1st, they need to have a lot of things already settled and not be getting ready for the World Cup. Now, if these people agree, and I might go along with what Manolo Lama said and what others have said, also conversations with other coaches, national team managers, like in the case of Pochettino or Nagelsmann, which the German press was talking about the other day, if there are already conversations with them along the lines of, hey, would you accept this? But working from now on, besides preparing your national team, which I don't know if Madrid would go along with that, honestly, because I understand that Madrid wants their managers to be fully focused. Also, there's a bad precedent here, which is Lopetegui's case in 2018. But anyway, that situation was handled in the worst possible way by the federation, by the way. But I think he could probably manage both things at the same time. But in today's football, maybe before, yes, but in today's football, it's very tough. So as for Scaloni, it doesn't sound bad to me because I think he's a good coach, a great coach. He made Argentina world champion, but not exactly convincingly either. But he has a drawback, he has a handicap, and that's that in clubs, he doesn't have much experience. Only with the national team, but what an experience too, world champion. But well, I don't know if Madrid is maybe reaching out, maybe just asking. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Come on, let's get to this quickly. What happened? Of course, this is from, I think it's from 2025, not 2023, but here footballgate.com reminds us. In an interview in Marca, de Burgos Bengoechea said this: there is an adjoining room so that if a line is drawn incorrectly, it can be corrected, but they don't make decisions. This was incredible because in theory and according to the VAR protocol, there can't be an adjoining room where a third or fourth person, I mean someone else, someone outside of that, no matter how much of a boss he is, which would be Clos Gomez, who was the head of VAR at that time. Remember, this changed at the start of this season. He couldn't say anything to those inside. That's why people in Italy are shocked, asking how someone like this Rocky guy, boss or a signer can tap on the glass. Dance Rocky, tell me. Well, they're there. Of course, the Italians are there, and apparently tapping phones and all that, analyzing phone conversations and things. And in Spain, this was mentioned. It was mentioned, and that's where it stayed. And they gave it a veneer of normality that doesn't make any sense. Now let's listen to Estrada Fernandez. Check this out about the 2024 handover. Well, maybe this came out in 2023 then. I thought it was 2025, but anyway, it's been a while now. I mean, the media, remember, they overlooked this. Well, we're here doing, I don't know, something like a handover from that time, but it was said there was some surprise in the media, but that's where it was left. And of course, no investigation within the sports framework, within sports justice. And of course, nothing to say about the regular courts, surely, because I mean, no one reported anything there, nothing happened there. When nothing is reported, when there is no follow-up, nothing happens. We are used to this happening in Spanish football, but well, scandal in the VAR. This was said, look, June 28, 2024. The boss, Clos Gomez, appointed himself as a reserve in the derby that Atletico won against Real Madrid. The top official of Spanish video refereeing included himself in the Madrid derby as the reserve room referee, who has direct communication with the referee in charge of the VAR. Here it says he appointed himself, his name was included, to be the referee who would occupy the reserve VAR room in the Madrid derby, despite not being a professional referee at present. It says the head of Spanish refereeing would have appeared from the VAR room to replace them when he shouldn't have. This was public. The question is, was that backup room there in case someone couldn't do it or something? I imagine they have to have a backup official there in case someone is unavailable. That's fine. But the question is, did that person, Clos Gomez, get involved in decisions when he wasn't supposed to? Well, I think the Burgos Bengoechea answers that for us here, as we just saw. There is an adjoining room so that at any given moment, if a line is being drawn incorrectly, for example, because it could be about a handball or something like that, it can be corrected, but they don't make any decisions. They don't make any decisions. Sorry, I didn't show it. They make no decisions at all. He made it clear so no one thinks otherwise. That's it. If they don't decide, it's just like Italy, damn it. It's just like in Italy, they didn't make any decisions. They got to the guy and he said, check that better. Of course, really, no one has gone further with this. To me, I just think it's crazy. Really crazy. Where were we with this? Okay, now let's listen to Estrada Fernandez, as I said. Fijaos, in the Corriere the Corriere della Sera, the investigation goes way back. The file on the referee assigner was opened more than a year ago. There could be wiretaps and other people under investigation. The source of this supposed investigative knowledge might not only lie in some testimony that is still unknown, but also in other possible wiretaps ongoing in the spring of 2025. In fact, the crime of fraud in sports competitions introduced by such law, with penalties ranging from 6 months to 2 years that did not allow wiretapping, was modified in 2014 with the increase of the penalty from 2 to 6 years, which therefore in theory could have legitimized the use of this investigative technique. Well, and here, don't forget, footballcade.com, that in Spain, since the tax agency, this is really serious, man. In Spain, since the tax agency sent the proceedings to the prosecutor's office in April 2022 regarding the payments from FC Barcelona to the then vice president of the CTA, no phone tapping has been authorized or carried out as part of the investigation. Hey, maybe, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this, and maybe a legal professional would tell me no because it's not prohibited by article whatever. But this was known in Spain. Remember that the Negreira case comes from, the investigation by the tax agency A. Negreira and Barcelona comes from when the issue hadn't expired yet. The issue hadn't expired yet, and then that's why, as we always say, they made it expire. And something was missing there that, for example, is now being done in Italy, and they are acting with a lot of diligence and speed. Bueno, well, Estrada Fernandez, he was already saying this back in 2023. Damn, man, yeah, it seems like the issue is from 2023. How do these things get forgotten? It really annoys me because I always try to keep going and going and going. But even I forget about a lot of things because people stop talking about them and so on. We're focused on football and what's happening with Madrid, so all this just happens, right?
Xavier Estrada Fernandez, good morning.
Hello, very good morning.
The truth is that you left us thinking yesterday, those of us who saw you, those of us who listened to you, with all these kinds of, explanations about something that, at least for the general public, is completely unknown, right? What you called the Borparalela operations room, right? A control room that no one was expecting.
Well, actually, I wasn't the one who named it. In fact, it's a room that has already been used for several years by the committee. Actually, there are really two rooms. One for the technicians, the operators from Hawkeye, who are the VAR technicians and operators, and an operations room that isn't mentioned in the event regulations, nor in the VAR protocol itself, nor actually even in our employment contract.
No, Javier, good morning, and thanks for being here with us. For me, what's important is whether you knew about it when asked last night on El Demarc. That Velasco, Carvalho, Clos Gomez, Undiano, Mayenko, and later Medina Cantalejo, in some Clásicos, they had been in the VAR room. I mean, they had been in the VAR. They were there. You said yes, right?
Yes, and I stand by it. In fact, it's from the 1920 season when, in the VAR, in matches like this one, in the Clásico, Carlos de Velasco, along with the person in charge of the VAR project, Clos, were in an annexed VAR following the match. And they did it in other matches too, right? In the Clásico, yes, they definitely did it.
And for you, isn't that suspicious?
Well, for me, more than suspicious, that was just 1 year, because starting from the 21-22 and 22-23 seasons, they created this room without explaining it publicly or to the league, without explaining it publicly to the clubs, and giving us obviously much more work to do. I repeat, because I think it's important to have a responsibility and obligations that don't belong to us.
And you are aware, of course,
that there was communication. Of course. Communication and or influence, because one thing is to have a phone. No, it's the same thing. One thing is to have, no, let's get to that. Everything is serious. There shouldn't be a phone that connects to the deliberation room, which should be, let's say, sealed off, just so we're clear, or isolated. Assume the plumber and electrician told the builder to build it, and he simply left a phone there. Someone picked up the phone to say something, or just to say good morning and good luck.
no, but here's the serious part.
There have been communications. It's clear communication, but I think it should be me, not them, who explains it.
So what Javier is saying, which is important to me,
Is that it's very serious, important, and very serious.
in a Clásico, I don't know who was refereeing at the Bernabeu, at the Football Club Barcelona Stadium in a room. Mr. Undiano Malenko, Mr. Clos Gomez, Mr. Velasco Carvalho,
Is Rossetti one day? Rossetti, not Ricardo Rossetti,
but Roberto Rossetti,
the head of UEFA referees.
a close friend of Velasco and Mr. Medina Cantalejo, could they review or approve the referee's decisions?
No, when Carlos Velasco led the committee, Roberto Rossetti did visit the VAR rooms in Las Rosas. The VAR project is actually a joint effort by Roberto Rossetti and Carlos Velasco and UEFA.
And he went to, the classics, Xavier, the classics. No.
No, it was the only classic that Roberto Rossetti attended. No, but in the ones where he wasn't there, in the ones where Rossetti wasn't there.
Well,
Here they go. Here things start to get a bit messy. But anyway, the message was sent at that moment, and everyone agrees that it's very serious. Just like when the Negreira case came out, everyone agreed that it was very serious. And then it just fades away and stays there. No one explained, for example, that the annex room is addressed by a specific regulation or anything similar, okay? No, the Negreira thing has already been proven false. It's actually the opposite. It still hasn't been explained. In the case of the payments to Negreira, what happened was that more things came out, reports from the civil guard, etc., court orders, destruction, and so on. And here, in this case, most of the media, instead of digging deeper because, hey, it's not explained, the job of journalism is to find an explanation. We forget, life goes on. The competition continues and nothing happened here. And this wasn't solved. It wasn't clarified. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. They tell me, no, look, yes, this is how it is. And this isn't like what happened in Italy. But to me, it sounds like that. Even if it's not a window, it could be a text message. It could be a phone call. It could be anything. In theory, they're being recorded. But of course, in Italy, since they already suspected it, they've gone further. They've scrutinized the images and such of the things that have happened. But in Spain, we don't know. We don't know if the same image has been shown inside a VAR room in Spain with Spanish referees looking to one side to the adjacent room or from the adjacent room. Any information or any telltale gesture like, hey, they're telling me that we have to say something else. We don't know since we have no footage. But everything points to that. If there's an adjoining room, if there are people in charge, they're supervising what these people are doing here, then how can we not think that the same thing is happening as in Italy? In Italy, they're using wiretaps, but here nothing happens. These are two different ways of handling the issue, which explains our situation. That's how they promptly and properly sanctioned Calciopoli. The most serious incident in Italian football, nothing similar happened in Spain. We keep going as we are. Anyway. Well, that's it. Have a great day. See you later. Bye.